if players don't know who I am, what I'm about, they're not going to care about what I have to say. Like it really.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Champion School. Champion School, we're sitting down with some of the brightest minds of the game, chatting a little life, chatting a little sports, chatting a little mindset. Today, Ray McIntyre, joined by BZB. Sorry, we should probably tell him who we are. It's going to be a little different for us today. We're going to cover some stuff, obviously, in the intro. We're going to hit up on an amazing podcast with Kellen Lee, who is a mental skills coordinator or coach for the San Francisco Giants. Shouts out. But BZB is going to be leading us through a lot of this stuff today. I've been crazy swamped trying to get that website revamped because I know a lot of you guys out there in Casper, Wyoming are trying to get on that Casper camp that's coming up this weekend, which is going to be sick. So, but BZB, before we get going, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Great weekend out in Wairika, California. A lot of fun. Long weekend, man. I'm still gassed. I mean, we had a good one. Ray Mack went through a couple innings yesterday, so he came back off the rocker, man. That's crazy. So we went out there. We ran a great coaches clinic. It was awesome. It's always fun going back. I think it was our third or fourth year as a team, and it's been probably 5 years or so since we've had some friends go back there in the past, and it's been awesome. It just continues to grow. Really good turnout on Sunday for our kids clinic too. Kind of last minute, just throw it together, see what happens. And we had 20 kids out there, which was great. A lot of fun, a lot of good athletes competing, man. That's what it's all about. So great relationships, great opportunity, great team, and excited to be back there this summer.
Yeah, shout out to the Rizzardos, obviously. Mm-hmm. Just an outstanding family up there, and they've taken care of us since day one. So shout out to them for, again, providing an awesome weekend for us. And then and Nakona for coming out and helping us out with camp as well. Out. So
some of the other things that I want to kind of touch base on was some of the D1 scoreboard and some of the people that are moving up and down. We make the joke of the Project Sandlot / Champion School personal touch. Georgia's playing well. LSU's playing well. Virginia's playing well. I'm sure there's more that I'm missing out on here that are playing pretty well, but there's been a little shakeup at the top. Texas dropped 2, so they moved down a couple ranks in most of the ranking systems. Ole Miss and Notre Dame have been arguably number 1 in a couple different of those rankings. I think Ole Miss, Baseball America has Ole Miss number 2. They have Notre Dame number 1, and then D1 baseball has Ole Miss number 1. Notre Dame, I think 6 on that ranking system. Virginia in the top 5 in a couple polls, and then also more in the top 20 as well. But they're playing good baseball. Clemson looking really good this year as well. They're 14-1. They've been moving forward, man. They've been rocking it out. So a lot of good stuff on that end as well. ASU obviously had a good weekend this last weekend, and they might be getting on track. I don't know. We'll see. And Arizona playing good baseball as well, opening up Pac-12 play with a 2 out of 3 over Cal, which was good. So Oregon State obviously doing their thing. They're in the top 5 in majority of the polls. They've been moving forward in a lot of these things too. But I think an overall good weekend. LSU swept a good team down at Bethune-Cookman, and they're usually a challenging team. They're going to compete for their conference championship. I was talking to a kid yesterday who's out in the A10, and he was saying how, like, for them in their deal, they've opened up, they've struggled a little bit in the beginning of the season. And their main thing is, like, in their conferences, let's win the conference. Like, let's win the conference, move on, use the preseason to get our bearings right and to get our culture set. So pretty interesting stuff on that end. Ray Mack, what do you got?
Yeah, for most mid-major conferences, it is win the conference. Find a way to win the conference. Most of the time, honestly, it's win the conference tournament, and that's going to get you in because there's only a few leagues that are still auto bid, no conference. I think the Ivy's probably the last one now, with the Pac soon to be moving into, I think next year, their own regional tournament. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get into the good news of the week.
Good news of the week. Let me go and pull this thing up. I've got a great one. My computer's lagging today, so if I take a little time, I apologize. But there's this really cool thing. So Ray's turned me on to the Good News Network. It was awesome. It was actually the first thing that popped up on my Google search. So that was good, and it stuck out. So there's this woman, and I want to make sure I get her name right. So it's Joy Milne. I believe, Milne. And so it says, hey, made headlines when scientists discovered that she could smell Parkinson's disease on people with neurodegenerative disorder. I mean, give me a
What?
break, dude. She can smell it. So here's what she's done with her superpower, which is incredible. They've created an e-nose. They're creating an e-nose that can detect in doctors' offices Parkinson's without having to actually go in and diagnose it from the doctor. How
So they just
insane is
walk
that?
in.
You just walk in, boom, you get the e-nose, and whatever it does, they're still kind of developing, but it like sniffs out whatever the scent is put off. I'm not sure what this scent is, it didn't explain, but it smells the scent or whatever that might be of Parkinson's in patients. And it was like
That's
31
wild.
out of 32. It was dynamite. And she was like spot on with her diagnoses. How crazy is that? She can
That's wild.
smell it. What? I can't even see it half the time. So very impressive. But I love the fact that she uses her superpower to do good, and she's helping a lot of people get early access. Now, there is no cure. I think there's a lot of things that are starting to come out that are helping with it, or at least helping aid it. But if you can create an e-nose that can detect this earlier on so that you can do some more preventative measures before it gets too late, I mean, what an incredible feat. So really cool to watch, really cool to see. Rattled me a little bit with the e-nose. I'm like, man, where are we move? Like, I just walk in and I'm diagnosed now. Like, this is impressive. So it's amazing where technology continues to go. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you always hear about dogs being able to do crazy stuff with the nose, but I mean, for a woman, and women have better nostrils than we do. They got better snoofers and in general, but for them to be able to smell a disease like that's pretty incredible. I think they were trying to do that with COVID initially, like right out the gate. They were trying to train dogs to do it. I don't know if that ever went through or not, but Parkinson's is a little more heavy hitting right now, so I'm good with that. So nice job. Good work.
Incredible, man. Very, very incredible. It's super, super inspiring just seeing these different stories and seeing how people can use their gifts for good. So great, good news of the week, baby. Come on.
There it is.
But now go ahead, Ray.
No, after you, sir.
Hey, I was going to go hit the chew on this right after that, baby. So let's go chew on this with the grinds presented by Grinds. I got my air grinds right now. Hopefully we can plug them in the playback.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Chew on this presented by Grinds. We're going to do that one again there. And we're super excited about this one. Last night in our Leadership Academy, we have a lot of our athletes are from colder weather states, so they're just getting ready in their seasons. And one of our athletes in particular is starting in New York, and they just started their tryouts this week. Yesterday was their first day. And something that came up to me just with anything in general in life was limiting beliefs. And we've talked about it a lot. It's been about a year since we've brought this back up within the academy. And I thought it was a perfect time to bring it in. And it all stemmed from Ray Mack's story that he got about the elephant that was tied to the tightrope and the chain at a young age. And when they put the rope on its leg, the elephant couldn't move. So eventually it became conditioned that when the rope's on the leg, I cannot move. And it became big, strong. Elephants get huge. And even though there's this massive elephant, there was still this small little chain on its leg that if you look at it from the outside, it's like, dude, just take a step and you're going to get through that. Like, you're going to break everything in the world with your massive power. The elephant, though, was conditioned with the limiting belief that when that chain is on, I cannot move. Going into, hey, most of us are conditioned between 3 and 7 for the rest of our lives with trauma or limiting beliefs or whatever that might be. And most of it we don't even ask for, right? Just through our childhood and our upbringing. So it was very important. And so today, talking about the limiting beliefs, thinking about the things that are holding us back, preventing us from releasing the chains to go achieve our goals and our dreams. And for some people, it might be fear of something new. For others, it might be the fear of other people's perceptions about us. For one person, it might just be, hey, the risk-taking factor. And I'm okay being comfortable. I feel good where I'm at, and I don't need to make a change. The limiting beliefs, when we destroy those, right, we acknowledge them, we accept them, we move through them, but we can destroy them by taking positive action. And that's all that we talked about last night. So I thought it was only right to bring it up for the podcast, because Kellen is obviously amazing at this, right, in his occupation and what he does. And to me, it's like, man, if there's one thing that's preventing us from going where we want to go, it's us. And it's usually the limiting beliefs that have been dampened, that we've tucked away and put inside for so long, that eventually they prevent us from taking those leaps of faith that we want to see. So I don't know if you want to add anything else on the limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, first, there's a lot of parents that are listening, and let's be honest, the 7-year-old isn't limited in his beliefs. Most of the time, it comes from somebody, and whether that's classmates or whatnot, most of the time it's from the parents, and not intentionally. They're always meaning the best. They're trying to point things out to help the kid, but really, really want to encourage people to try and focus on, hey, you can do anything. It was I again, going back to the Ukraine thing, I saw something on one of the people that were evacuating one of the cities was a single mom with a young boy. They had traveled thousands of miles already, and they made it out. And this mom literally is talking to the boy who's been just stone faced the whole time. And he said, like, something about, we're not going to get through this or whatever. It's not going to be as cool wherever we're going or whatever. And she's like, you can do anything. Remember, you can do anything. You can do anything. Just like pounding it into his head, like challenging situation, obviously. But with that kind of encouragement, I think you can get through a lot of that stuff and you become so much more resilient over time rather than going, hey, my parents are telling me there's no way this is happening. There's no way this is happening. So I love it.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And we saw it at camp too with a couple kids and no fault but their own, right? I can't hit. I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't run. I can't make that play. It's too muddy. It's too this. And it's like, no, let's replace that with, I can. I got this. Keep working one pitch at a time, whatever that might be for whatever section of your life it is. So I thought that was so important. And seeing it at camp with 9, 10, 11-year-olds sometimes, it's like, okay, let's start to change our language earlier on so that when we get to the 16, 17, 18-year-old range in high school, we've already been conditioned that way and we've been equipped with some better self-talk to help us get through more of those challenging situations that life presents. So love it. Love it.
Don't be the chain on your son or daughter from an early age. Send them on. Let them do their thing.
Hot take of the day.
There it is. A great interview with Kellen Lee, as we've mentioned. He's, I want to say, around my age, pretty close. San Diego native, and then ended up moving up. He's in San Jose now, working pretty much primarily in San Jose. He does bounce around, and then he's heading out. He's in spring training right now, getting the team going. Great mind. The guy has a real grasp on what's going on the mental side and mental skill stuff. And some of the words he says, because he has some degrees beyond me, are large words, but he does a good job breaking it down for everybody. So let's go ahead and get into this interview and we'll chat about it afterwards. Kellen Lee.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Champion School. We got Ray Mack in the building. JP had a work meeting, so he can't make it today. But we got Kellen Lee, one of the minor league mental skills coordinators for the San Francisco Giants. We are fired up to have you, Kellen. I've been following your stuff on social media for a long time, like we talked about before off air. It's been a long time coming for a good conversation, but I love what you do. We're super excited for our guest here today. But more importantly, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing really well. Thanks again for having me. Like you said, it's been a minute and it's been a long time coming for us to connect, and I'm fired up to throw around some ideas and see where the conversation goes. I'm fired up, man.
Oh, this is so exciting, man. This is really our bread and butter, man. This is what we love to do. And we study it all the time. We learn it, and we love learning from people like you who are in it and doing it for a career. For you though, Kellen, what really got you into the mental side of sports, mental performance, some of those types of things? What really got you in there? What was that like kind of that shifting point in your career?
Yeah, I think like we have to rewind all the way back to my college days. I went to UC San Diego, played baseball there, and go Tritons. And
Nice.
my coach, Dan O'Brien, did an excellent job of just introducing our team and myself to the mental aspects of the game. And I reached a level of performance that I never even really thought possible for myself. So the mental side of the game was really intriguing. And at that point, I was kind of at a crossroads where I didn't know if I wanted to go into coaching. I knew this, sports psychology, mental performance thing was kind of a thing at the time, but I didn't really fully grasp it. So I talked to some people and I'm like, I think I want to do this, mental game stuff as a career. And like I said, I was at that crossroads. And when I graduated from UCSD, Dan O'Brien, my coach, got another job and he actually asked me to come on staff with him. And we went to the ABCA conference in, I want to say 2012. down in Anaheim, and I stumbled into this presentation. I really didn't know what I was getting into, but lo and behold, it happened to be someone who was doing mental skills coaching in professional baseball. And again, I was about to enroll in my master's degree program, and I was, a really young, motivated, soon to be graduate student, and I'm like, wow, like I was so intrigued by what he was doing, what like his job and what he was explaining about all the different roles. And I'm like, well, shoot, like that's exactly what I want to do. So ever since that day, I was really fixated on doing the work in professional baseball. And so finished my master's degree in sports psychology. At that point, I was doing some consulting with some colleges or, individual athletes from, kind of all over the place. But then I realized I was like, I don't want to do this like more full-time basis. So then I ended up working with the United States Army for 3 years, did mental skills training and performance training with that population, which was an incredible experience. And we could talk about that if you'd like, but I just really enjoyed that experience. And then lo and behold, a couple of years later, the San Francisco Giants opened up a position, and I live in the Bay Area. I live in San Jose. It was just a great fit. I interviewed with them, and it was, I felt really good about the direction of the organization. And then now, going into year 3 as a mental skills coach with the organization. And in the midst of all that, I was crazy enough to go back and get my PhD in performance psychology, since I love this stuff so much, which was also a really incredible but challenging experience that I'm grateful for. And so yeah, now that we sit here in 2022 and going on to year 3 in my dream job, it couldn't have worked out better. As a former baseball player myself, I love being around the game and really zeroing in and locking in on the mental aspects of the game, as we know is really important. And really just coaching these guys to reach their full potential and beyond. It's a really exciting role.
It's really the key separator, isn't it? It's like that one little thing you noticed it as a player. We noticed it as players. I think the coolest part about this, and Ray, you can attest, I'm sure, is we learned from our coaches sometimes of how important this is. I remember my last 2 years in Nevada for Ray, it was kind of his last year, and then going into his first year of coaching. And Coach Jay Johnson introduced us to this. We had 3 different people come in, between psychologists, between leadership, you can say gurus or whatever you want to call it, and then some breathing things. And it was all this stuff. I'm like, this is what we want to do. Like, this is incredible. And we saw the shift in our game and our team and how we operated. Take us through the Army, because that's interesting. We talk with a lot of vets. We're doing some things in Wyoming, and it seems like everybody in Wyoming is a veteran, which is amazing. And we obviously hear a lot of stuff in the media with it. For you, what was that experience like, training people who aren't just fighting for a good at bat or striking somebody out, but they're fighting life and death, and they're compartmentalizing all these different experiences that they're seeing? What was that experience like, man? Take us through that.
Yeah, it was incredibly rewarding. And I'll be honest with you, and for all the listeners out there who might be skeptical of doing this work with the military, I was incredibly skeptical about doing this work with the military as well before I got the job. Because in fact, like, people in the field of sports psychology is kind of a lesser known fact, but working with the military in some capacity is probably the biggest employer of sports psychology and performance psychology professionals here in the U.S. Probably over 250 total jobs working with the armed forces in some capacity. So again, as a graduate student, I know the job existed, but I was incredibly skeptical, and I didn't see the connection. I was like, well, how can I transfer all of these sport performance skills to a tactical population like the military? But I'll tell you this, when I got there and started doing some trainings, getting in front of groups and doing presentations and coaching, on the mental side of their performances, I think that one of the biggest takeaways that I had was I can really see, and now I notice that I can conceptualize really anything that anyone does as a performance, and them having a mental aspect to what they do. So being able to cater all of our training to the specific tasks or performances that these soldiers had was incredibly challenging, especially as someone who never served in the military, really had no knowledge of what they did or how they operated. So really starting in a brand new population or performance environment or domain, as I call it, from square one with no prior information was really hard. But bringing this skill set of mental performance skills into the realm was really cool, and really just trying to do my best to understand what they did so that I can best meet them with where they're at and what they need, and identify like the key skills that might be relevant to what they do. But the stories that I heard, just the incredible people that serve our nation, which is really cool. And I'm very humbled to work with that population. I've always had a great respect for the military. I grew up in San Diego, which is an incredibly, really military heavy place. So I always had that respect, but I really didn't fully grasp and understand what they did until I got to, had the opportunity to work with them. Um, and yeah, I just like some of the conversations that we had with them, talking about different resilient skills and how to bounce back from the inevitable adversity that we all face, but specifically in a combat situation or in a deployment situation where you're away from your family for 8 to 9 months at a time, and being able to process all of those challenging moments that they go through, whether they're in battle or they're on operations deployment where they don't see battles at all. It's all challenging, and what they do is just so incredible. So just to be a small piece of their development and small piece of their puzzle was really humbling. um but I'll tell you this, like one of the coolest populations I got to work with, like subpopulations within the military, was the military medical personnel. They were just incredible. I remember, working with the surgeons and the pilots that run that operate the Blackhawks, to the medics who are, providing the first aid to the casualties during battle. Like, just some of the stories are really incredible to see. And then being able to apply like focusing strategies and breathing techniques and like visualization to what they do was so cool. And to have them like really come back and give feedback and like, wow, like I wish I would have had this earlier. I wish I would have had these skills, prior to my first deployment, so I could just be more mentally ready and effective in my job. It was just such cool feedback to hear, like that transfer of skills from, again, from the place I was very skeptical about how can I add value in this population, in this space, to, by the time I left the program, I'm like, wow, like I feel like I've really added a ton of value to what they do just based on their stories and their feedback. So yeah, it was really cool. But also like personally, like professionally, just gave me a lot of opportunity in front of groups to really address and teach these concepts and coach them, and got a lot of repetitions in being able to articulate some of these really complex ideas and theories to other people and help them apply it, which absolutely set me up for success now. And yeah, I just, I could talk for hours about that experience, but I just wanted to highlight the military medical personnel because they were really cool to really break down their performances. And of course, like working with the machine gunners was really cool too. But the military medical personnel, I just have such a high level of respect for what they do, and their mission as a whole of just really taking care of other soldiers regardless of their situation. It's just really cool.
Shout out to the military. Shout out to all our armed forces for what they do and the impact that they have. But that is incredible, man. Now I'm just picturing like a machine gunner on the top of the turret, because I'm a Call of Duty guy, especially back in the day. Ray Max, we grinded for a while. And so I'm just picturing, and then somebody's going down, medics hitting them, like boom, like just the in battle and the combat side. And then also, like you mentioned, the out of combat, the ones who might not see it, but are gone for 9 months to 12 months in a row without seeing any family. That is incredible. I just love hearing these stories, man. And I love how it's transferable from military to baseball to real everyday life to the teacher to the principal. It doesn't matter where you are. You said it best in the beginning. We're all performers in some aspect. And I think that's important to highlight. Last question before I kick it off to Ray here. But what are some of the main things that you are teaching? And I know there's probably a big old word bank of things that you do, and it might be subject to that individual as well. But what are some of the more common things that you might be bringing to the table, say, first time with the program or first couple weeks of spring training when you get your guys in there and you're really taking them through some things and establishing the mental side of what you do? What are some of those main key components that you're hitting on?
Yeah, I think, like you said, every player is unique. Every player and coach needs something different, but there are all those like generalities and foundations across the board. And start with the basics. Just help them understand that when they focus on the right thing at the right time, it allows their full physical potential to show up more consistently. And what that looks like for each player could be a wide range of skills or techniques. But at the end of the day, having them identify what they need to think about, what they need to focus on in a particular moment, or whether it's training or performing, it really doesn't matter. The same principle applies. If we're focused on the right thing at the right time, we're more likely to perform to our full potential. So start like that. That's the most basic form. And then from there, like help them identify what prevents them from focusing on the right thing at the right time so that they can have the skills to get themselves back to where they need to go. Because I think oftentimes we only focus on what they should do versus what actually gets in their way of what they should do. And I think talking about both sides of the coin helps them build that self-awareness, but also helps them understand the game a little bit better, as opposed to just like taking for granted that their focus is going to drift and it's going to go elsewhere. Let's just actually like specifically break down what pulls you away, what prevents you from doing what you know is helpful for yourself, whether it's a physical or a mental component. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that something is pulling you away, because at the end of the day, like from a game to game basis, someone's skill set doesn't necessarily change much. What does change the most is what we're thinking about, what we're focusing on. So, when they step out of the cage after BP onto the field for that game, that 7 o'clock or whatever it might be, their skill set hasn't changed at all, really at all in the 2 hours from BP. What changes is what they're thinking about, what they're prioritizing, what's the top of mind, how consistent can they be on a pitch to pitch basis. Has nothing to do with skill, because their skill is what it is in that competitive moment. So having them understand that their mind can either work for them or against them, and they get to choose, is a really powerful foundation that I try to share with our players. So, and then that goes with the coaches too. So you asked like what we'll address in spring training. I spent about half of my time with the coaches, coaching them on how to coach the mental game as well, because I think like they have way more touch points than I could ever have with players. Players tend to go to them first. If a player is struggling at the plate, their first call is probably their hitting coach. It's probably not me. Maybe it is, but it could be most likely their hitting coach, which is great. So I try to bring them up to speed on anything that I think could be helpful from their vantage point to share with our players, so that they're getting the same message. It's really consistent, and that, they hear something from me in a presentation and then they hear their hitting coach say the exact same thing. It's more likely going to stick. So again, I think at the very first present, like foundations or presentations we might tackle are just understanding the impact of focusing on the right thing at the right time, what that does for you, why it's helpful, and also coaching coaches on how to pick up on cues on whether players are focusing on the right thing at the right time, or if they're not, common distractions, common things that prevent players from being as locked in as possible. And then from there, just really go into the weeds with individual players or small groups about like, what does this look like for them specifically? So I think like that's honestly what I'm gearing up to do here in the next couple of weeks, is really just get these guys thinking about their thinking, which is a really weird concept, but it's really critical to do. And also think about like some of the factors that just pull them away or get them out of their game. Because I think, building that foundation of self-awareness is an absolute game changer for really anyone who's trying to be a high performer in whatever they do.
So good.
For you guys are going into spring training, and I don't think a lot of our listeners understand what that entails all in totality. But for you, like, what does a day-to-day for the spring training look like for you?
Yeah. So like 95% of my work is dedicated to the minor leagues in player development. So what that looks like for me is, at the most basic form, if the players are at the facility at the complex, I'm at the facility or complex, whether in the weight room, whether in the athletic training room, getting, day-to-day maintenance treatment, in the cage, on the field, in meetings. Like I'm around every day, 7 days a week, maybe a day off every couple of weeks, perhaps, maybe, hopefully.
Maybe.
But really, like, I love the grind. I'm a baseball guy, so I just love being at the field. But for the listeners specifically, like, if the players have like a 5-hour workout, I'm probably there for 7 hours. Like, I'm there longer than the players at times, where again, I'm shooting the breeze with the coaches, talking shop with the coaches as they're at the facility, early on, getting their work done or just getting organized for the day. Basically there's two different types of days in spring training. The first is like a training day or a camp day, what we call it. And then there's like the spring training game. So when it's a camp day, we'll do things ranging from defensive drills to BP to, cage work to, the pitchers will throw bullpens, the catchers will do their defensive work, whether it's, blocking or transfers or whatever they're focusing on that day. And then, we end the day, or they'll get a lift in, or they'll do what they need to do, off the field stuff. And on those days, typically we'll have some type of meeting, whether it's, hitting philosophy meeting or defensive work or talking about positioning, or, the mental skills guys will come in, we'll do our deal. So those tend to be the camp days. And then the game days, we'll do a little bit of a workout earlier in the day. We'll do some BP defensive stuff, kind of the same game day routine that they would do during the season. And then we'd play a game. So on the minor league side, we'll play a local team, here we're our facilities in Scottsdale. We'll play the Diamondbacks one day. We'll play the Cubs, for, a 7-inning or 8-inning game, depending on how much pitching we have or who needs to get work. And I'm there. So I'm in the dugout. I'm, kind of walking around the different fields if we have multiple games going on, having touch points with the guys. During games, like, I don't necessarily do a ton of coaching. Well, some people think I might not be, but I might be in the dugout. I might just like pick up on an observation or ask a player what he's thinking. I don't want to give him too much, but if I'm noticing something, or if I, had a previous conversation with the guy earlier and I want to follow up with them, it's a great time in the dugout to have those conversations. And that's really my approach during the season too. So I'm in the dugout all the time, just being a resource for them, whatever they need. And, sometimes, so what I've been told by players is sometimes just my presence is a reminder for them of something we talked about, which is really interesting to me, where I don't have to say anything, but they're just like, oh yeah, Kellen said that one thing about focusing. Maybe I should do that my next at bat. Like, I've actually gotten that feedback just from being there. So I try to make a point to be there as much as possible. Again, like, we have 3 games going on. I can't be in 3 dugouts at once, but like, I do try to make my rounds and be as present as possible. Because what I've been told, again, this is not my words, this is their words, is that even just being there can make a difference. So I try to just like be as present as possible for both the coaches and the players. And, there's nothing like, shooting the breeze and just, being in a dugout, like, just even if you're talking nothing about what I do as a job, talking about just really anything with the players. It's just really cool to have that experience. And, this is my job. I get to go hang out in a dugout and talk shop with players. Like, it couldn't be better.
Are you going to be stationed? Do you station in San Jose? Like, is that your home field?
Yeah. So a huge plus and why this was such a great fit for me and the Giants is I lived in San Jose prior to getting the job, and our low A affiliate is actually here in San Jose. So I do travel to all of our affiliates. I rove around to, Eugene, Oregon, Richmond, Virginia, and Sacramento is our AAA. And then here in San Jose is our low A affiliate. So I fortunately get to stay here, and then I travel around, but I spend a lot of time with our low A affiliate during the season, which is honestly great because it tend to be a little bit younger population, younger group. And I do a lot of teaching, a lot of coaching, and just my consistent presence, like I mentioned, can make a huge difference. And I get to really build really strong, meaningful relationships early on in their professional career. And I've seen it pay dividends, going into year 3 here, seeing guys at their first time, perhaps in a first time full season affiliate baseball. And then now, they could be slotted to go to AA, and I really have a really strong, meaningful relationship with them. So the work tends to be really cool to see them progress and see them, develop as people, and just being a part of that process is really cool. But so I travel down to Arizona for spring training. So that's hard being away from my family. I got 2 young kids, being down there for 5 or 6 weeks straight. But really, like, during the season, I get to spend a lot of time here in San Jose, and of course get on the road with the other teams. But so that my home base is essentially San Jose until spring training comes around. And then I, post up in Scottsdale, which there could be worse place to be. But that tends to be my home for at least half of February and a little bit all of March.
Very nice. It's not a bad place to live either side for sure.
No.
So for last one before I send it off to Bye, but how important is it for you, and as a former coach, like even trying to talk somebody through a swing change or something like that, it's hard to do without building that relationship first. And so for you, for example, in spring training, you have so many guys coming in. How does that play into your role, building that relationship before the coaching side comes in?
Yeah, I think like it's absolutely huge, right? Like, I think if players don't know who I am, what I'm about, they're not going to care about what I have to say. Like, I can't stress that enough, where, even if players aren't going to latch onto everything I say, if I could just make an influence on them as people, like, I feel like I'm doing my job. And I can't do that unless they know who I am. They know where I'm coming from. And like, there are certain things about me personally that I might not share with a player, but that's fine. Like, that's my personal choice. But I'm a pretty open book. Like I want to be authentic. I want to be genuine around them because, I think they can sniff out BS if they feel it. Like I do think that is one thing that I've learned from being in pro ball, but also working with the military. Like they're very quick to call you on your crap if you're not being authentic. They'll definitely call you on that. But I think like you said, like it's so critical to be able to have that personal connection with the player, because here's what happens. This is the byproduct. We always talk about like why relationships are important, but I'll tell you why, like what happens as a byproduct of having that relationship. So I might spend, let's just say, a total of 30 minutes talking to a player, and 27 of those minutes might not have anything to do with what I have to offer in terms of my job or skill set. But the last 3 minutes of that conversation, he might like shift it seriously and go like, all right, but seriously, like I'm really having a tough time focusing on my bullpens. Like, do you have anything for me? And I might give them something that like 30 seconds, like, okay, hey, try this. And like, I've noticed this, or, I've seen you do your bullpens, or just give them something really quick. And whether it works or not, they've opened up the door to actually do great work in the future. And what that does as like a second or third order consequence is they'll want more. Like they'll just want more. So I never think like that I am wasting any time if I'm actually getting to know a player. Some people are like, well, you're not doing your job. I'm like, well, not by my job description, but like what that actually does long term is the player's going to care. He's going to start to care because I'm truly showing like a genuine interest and curiosity in him as a person. Because at the end of the day, like just a reminder for everyone listening, these are humans who wear different uniforms to work. Like they really are. Like that's all they are. And again, I've used that same principle with the military when I was really apprehensive and like a little like, oh my gosh, like what are they going to listen to me? They're just humans who wear different clothes to work. Like that's all they are. And it's really cool. And so you have to address them as a human first. And then from there you can really get in the weeds with some cool concepts. But I can't stress enough how important the personal connection is.
It's so good. That personal and as a former player, and obviously for all three of us here as former players, we can tell when those genuine relationships are built and you trust that person. So now I'll come to you with whatever I have, even if it's just Kellen, hey dude, how are you doing? How's your kids? How are you guys running? Like, do you like San Jose? Like whatever it is, we just have that genuine connection and it makes that person, we build that trust. So I really like that. I remember we had, when I was with the Diamondbacks, we had a couple people, but it was right before mental skills started to get big. It was right before they brought on the coordinators and kind of opened up some roles for it. And that was always the one thing that I felt like we lacked. And thankfully they made a massive difference in MLB baseball and all throughout professional sports to emphasize the role of mental performance coaches in sport and anywhere. But there's something that's been a hot topic. I know you've been in the middle of this hot topic too. And I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this. The difference between a mental performance coach versus a mental health specialist or like a counselor, right? And I think they're different in ways. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it, man. So I just want to open up the floodgates, let you roll into it and do your thing, because I am genuinely interested in this topic and what the real difference is and how we can assess that as well.
Yeah, I think like this has been a really, like you said, a hot topic. And I think it's important for people to understand that there is a difference. And at the same time, there is overlap as well. And what I mean by that is like, I think of the mental health professional and the mental performance professional as like two opposite ends of a spectrum. And it's really on a continuum, right? Where in general, a mental health professional is identifying and helping players or helping people improve their overall well-being and like overall functioning as a human being. Whereas a mental performance coach or someone in my realm, with my particular education and skill set, is focusing on the enhancement of performance. At the end of the day, our goals are very similar. And the goals that are very similar, where that overlap lies, is we're trying to use have our mind help us versus not help us. Like that's at the end of the day. Whereas a mental performance professional focuses solely on performance, a mental health professional focuses primarily on overall functioning and well-being. There is that overlap where someone who does provide mental health support, which again, for the listeners, I have no mental health training in my education, my experience, and that was a complete intentional choice, as I really wanted to focus on coaching, because personally, I identify as a coach with a different skill set. There's a hitting coach, there's a pitching coach. I just happen to be a coach for your mind. Whereas a mental health professional focuses on identifying if there's an anxiety disorder, a depression disorder, and that is on the spectrum and really under that umbrella of like functioning and overall well-being as a human versus like their efficiency or performance excellence as a performer. And that's a very, very distinct distinction for me. So for me, like, it's really important to understand, like, if you as a listener or a consumer or an athlete or performer are looking for some type of resource, it's identifying the specific resource that you need. If you do require some more mental health resource, great. There are some great people out there that can provide that support. And I'm a huge advocate for people seeking out that support. I'm just not a mental health professional. So if I'm working with a player who, provides some red flags or just throw out some ideas, I'm like, wow, like, I think that person could absolutely benefit from someone getting the resource and the need that they require. I will hand them off to the best person I can find. Also, I don't want them to think that I'm like use a football analogy of like handing the ball and saying like, hey, good luck, like see you in the end zone. It's like not that. I want them to understand that if they require mental health support, which is great, go get the support that you need. I can also simultaneously work on the mental aspects of performance because there is that clear distinction. So like the analogy I try to use is I think of mental performance and mental health professionals as two parallel lanes on the freeway where there's the dotted line in the middle where a player can merge into each lane and we're all working towards the same destination. We're all working in the same direction of having our mind help us versus not help us. I focus on performance. Mental health professionals focus primarily on overall functioning and well-being. And a player can merge, can go back and forth. It's a dotted line. It's not a double yellow. It's a dotted line where we can, kind of merge into both lanes. And we are simultaneously working on the same thing. So with that said, like if I ever come across a player who does require that additional resource and identify that need, I am not going to like leave them in the dust. Like I want them to still focus on the mental aspects of performance because it is two very different skill sets and you can benefit from both. So long-winded way in saying, if you need additional mental health support, great, find it. There's a lot of great people who can do that work. And I'm a huge advocate and a huge supporter for that space. At the same time, what I physically do, what I do in terms of my training and what I'm qualified to do is focus on the aspects of performance. And I would say that every single person, every single performer can benefit from identifying their mental aspects of performance and training it so that they can be more effective in the long term. And that's simply the space I live in. So that, I hope that answers your question. I really I want to clearly provide a distinction for people out there because again, a lot of times it gets confused. Some people, they ask me, they're like, are you a mental health professional? Are you not? So like, I'm very deliberate about the language that I use. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm just a mental performance professional is the best way to describe it.
That's such a good way to put it. And I'm glad you clarified it for everybody out there listening, because it's such a hot topic and it's important to distinct the two differences, but also the similarities. Like you said, I love the analogy. I'm a big analogy guy. And for you to say, hey, we can merge into lanes. There's no double yellows, man. Like we can go from side to side, but at the end of the day, we're trying to help people get in the right direction and get the help that they need. And totally. There's two different ways to do it. And I think that's an important one to label there. So that's huge, man. I love that. And I love the passion that you have behind this. It's so powerful and it like radiates through the screen, man. I love it. So I guess the next thing that I want to ask here too is you get to obviously work with professionals and guys who have been picked, right? You've been drafted to get to that level. And there's a lot that goes on, right? Long seasons, a lot of failure, a lot of ups and downs, obstacles, distractions off the field, you name it. If you're a kid that is just looking to explore this side, right? The mental performance, they've seen it on Twitter. They might have seen it on Instagram posts. They're like, hey, there's something missing. My physical skill set seems to be in a good place, but up top, I'm just a head case. I'm struggling. What would you recommend? Maybe some first steps for somebody who's, say, brand new getting into this space as an athlete from the athlete side of things to start diving into? Where would you recommend they go? Or maybe some of the things for them to start practicing or actively doing on a daily basis, just to start beginning that dialogue with themselves?
I think like that's an excellent question because I get that a lot where people are like, "Hey, I heard you do some really cool stuff, but I have no idea where to start."
Yep.
So super common question, and I would say like at its most basic form, understanding yourself within that performance space is like the best first step. So that includes like I said, understanding what helps you, understand what doesn't help you, what throws you off your game, what helps you with your game. And it's simply just like taking a second to think about out of your performance space. So like whether you're sitting at home or on the way to a game, like it could look anywhere, but really just taking an inventory up front of like where am I at? Like, do I do things on intentionally? Do I leave things to chance? Like how on purpose is my thinking? How not on purpose is my thinking? And understand that and really at the most basic form, like the more intentional you are with your thoughts, the more consistent you are with your performance because a consistent
Mm.
mental approach leads to consistent performance. Is it guaranteed? Absolutely not. Like let's be honest, like this there's so many variables when it comes to performing in any sport, so nothing is guaranteed, but I'm in the business of just increasing chances of success. So like look back at the moments where you've had a lot of success and really clearly brainstorm it and identify, well, shoot, like what worked for me? Like something was obviously working for me in this span or in this game. Take note of it, like jot it down, write it down, become really aware of what's going on that's helpful. And then create another list of like, well, when I'm not doing well, when things don't seem to be working out for me, what else am I noticing? Like, what else? I think like a really powerful question, yet so simple, is like, what else? Like, continue to brainstorm, like, what else? What else could be helpful? What else is not helpful? And like, really, like, sit in that space and identify and continue to expand on those lists because, first of all, the list that you identify what's helpful, that is a piece of your recipe for success. Like, that is your piece. That's your own twist and own recipe for success. And it's important to like continue to cater, like again I'm using that analogy, but like continue to like manipulate that recipe and keep like seeing what you can add or even take away because sometimes like addition by subtraction is also really helpful where you might be just need to take something out of your routine that's just minimizing your efficiency. So I think for anyone trying to start out, like take it from the most basic form and these aspects of of your list, so to speak, might be mental or physical or it doesn't really matter. Just identify what's helpful and what's not. And then from there, you already have a piece of your recipe for success. And then you identify what you can subtract, addition by subtraction. And then from there, you can start to implement new strategies, whether that's, again, we talked about like a little bit of breathing, whether you talk about establishing a really consistent routine, giving yourself some attention or focus control strategies, or just like understand the importance of emotional intelligence. Like that is like a next level, third level, like type of concept, but understanding the role that your emotions play in performance could be an absolute game changer for someone. Understanding the default emotions or the emotions you experience the most during a performance, whether it's good or bad, that is a skill in itself. Being able to regulate those emotions and being able to name the emotions. Now we're getting like really in the weeds about emotional intelligence, but there's a ton of stuff out there that suggests that the more emotionally intelligent a person is, the more they can regulate, the more they can just be in control of themselves. And when we know we're in control of our mind, of our emotions, we're in control of our body. And when we're in control of our body, we can in control of our physical skill set. And that's what we're trying to transfer into an athletic performance. So again, I can go on and on about this, but start out by just what's helpful and what's not, and then go from there. And you can pick up on patterns of things you can continue doing or things you can adjust.
I love the self-awareness piece, Kellen, like the just becoming more self-aware. And I mean, I'm sure you can go back into it. Ray, I'll kick it off to you for a couple more in a second, but like, I think we can all go back to it as when we're performing. And then now in regular day life, where like, if we just took inventory of how we were feeling on a certain day, we might be able to get through those feelings and emotions a little bit better for whatever that might be. So I love the fact that you hit on that, man. And, really just everything that you've been doing and how an athlete can get access to this just by simply listening, right? And listening to themselves, listening to the thoughts, being able to write them down, putting them on paper. I'm such a big fan of putting things on paper. I think it just sticks more for us and we can see it. It's visual. It just really just, it hits deeper. So Ray, I'll let you kind of dive into another one and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll get you one question, and then we'll get the game, and then we'll let by
Nice,
wrap.
nice.
But
Cool.
for you, your son Colton, I was watching on
Yes.
Instagram today. He does. You do this little thing where you ask him what the team names are,
Yeah.
and that is
That's
one of
so
my
awesome.
favorite segments I've seen on Instagram. So, but for you, with Colton, you were talking emotional intelligence and your role. What's it been like seeing his emotional intelligence develop? How has that played into your role as a parent too?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I'm really proud. Like he turns 5 here in a couple weeks, and it's incredible what he's able to like understand and comprehend at his level and or at his age. And I do have to give a ton of credit to his school, because they talk about like understanding emotions and being able to name them. And some of the stuff he says when it comes to emotions, it like blows my mind. Like he'll go like, I'm really frustrated because, and he'll explain like why he's frustrated, and I'm just like, wow, like that's incredible. Like for him to be able to articulate that is really cool. So like as a parent, like one thing that I try to do alongside my wife is help him understand that like I'll never get upset at him for being like sad or angry or frustrated. I'll tell him like it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to show emotions. It's okay to understand like why you're feeling that way, but understand how like being angry and what the action that might come along with anger might result in, and have them understand that the behavior is what we're focusing on, not the emotion. We can change the behavior, and by one, we can first try to regulate the emotion. Like, sure, that's the first step, but understand what we tend to do with a certain emotion, whether that's, go throw a toy or yell or something like that. Like we'll focus on the behavior, not the emotion. And we'll talk about the emotion. We'll try to name it. We'll help them understand it. But we really focus on like the behavior itself. And also like his ability to really like think about, or actually one thing that I'm really fired up about for him specifically, I get fired up about emotional intelligence. It's kind of weird, but
It's awesome.
like when I'm feeling something or my wife feels something, or we have my 1-year-old daughter Dawson, when she's upset, like he'll be able to go like, I think Dawson is upset because she dropped her pacifier on the ground, and like he tries to think about like and empathize with her, because empathy again is such a powerful tool. And like I'm fired up that he's able to empathize at the age of almost 5, which is really cool to think about, because our ability to feel something with another human being can absolutely impact the way that we connect with them. And that's what empathy is. So side note, one thing that I love to throw out there is like the difference between sympathy and empathy. And sympathy is feeling for someone, empathy is feeling with someone. And when we empathize with someone, we're like kind of reaching out and like trying to connect with them, versus like the visual that comes to me when someone says like, oh, I'm sympathizing. It's kind of like, I feel for you. Like I feel bad. And it's almost like putting your hand out like this, like you're almost pushing them away, almost like giving them the Heisman, so to speak, as opposed to like empathy, you're like inviting them into your space. It's like, I know, like one thing he said, it was really cool. Is like, I know Dawson's upset because she dropped her pacifier. And like something as simple as that, he's able to articulate that and understand it. So like those little moments are really cool, but really like as a parent, helping them understand that feeling emotion is okay. And like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. Let's understand like what we do as a result. Like what are our actions? What are our behaviors? And that's what we tend to focus on. Or if we need to course correct or change the behavior, we focus on the behavior. We focus on the emotion. I'll never get mad at him for feeling anger, because guess what? We're human. We're going to feel that way. And I would be hypocritical if I get angry at him for feeling anger. Like that just doesn't make any sense. So like, but I will talk about like some of the behaviors that we want him to do or not do as a result of some of those emotions. So like that's really at the most basic form. But at first, like I think a skill that everyone could benefit from, the listeners out there, is just being able to name your emotion first. Like come up with the word, like be able to describe it. In fact, a really cool exercise I do with like people is I sit them down, I'll go, okay, brainstorm as many emotion words as you can without any prompts. And that's it. People really struggle with that, like really struggle to come up with just words to describe emotions. Even when I say, hey, use synonyms like happy, excited, fired up, pumped up, like all those words, those are emotion words, and they're different degrees of intensities of emotions. So increasing your vocabulary in terms of your like emotion word vocabulary bank is incredibly powerful, because then you can specifically identify like what emotion you're actually feeling and then be able to regulate it from there. If it's ineffective or counterproductive or productive, and you can keep it. But like I try to give him different words to describe his emotions so that he can just be more in tune with what he's experiencing.
Yeah, that empathy piece is a huge developmental stage for kids to achieve and get to. So I don't know. I don't have any kids yet, so I'm living vicariously through you right now. Let's go ahead and dive into the game. This is a quick game. We call it on it or off it. I'm going to go through a list of 10 things. We kind of try to relate them to some things you might be on or off. You're going to tell us you're on it, you're for it, you're off it, you're against it, or you're not about it, and quick sentences to why.
Cool.
Okay. Number 1, black coffee.
On it. No sugar, no cream.
Yep. How many coffee cups a day are you going through?
Ooh. When I'm at the facility, probably 2 to 3. At home, like I try to limit it max 2.
Nice. Very nice. Buys on that kick right now too.
Yeah, 2 to 3 minimum.
Number 2, Monopoly.
On it. Love the idea of trading and just trying to dominate another person.
Yeah, me too. Number 3, travel ball year round.
Ooh. Off it. I would rather someone play multiple sports and not specialize.
Me too. Did you play multiple sports growing up?
Oh yeah, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, everything.
Oh boy, very nice. Number 4, golf.
On it. My physical game is awful. My mental game is great.
There you go.
But I do like it.
Did you ever play Tory while you were down there?
No, I haven't. I played Coronado. Coronado is incredible.
Yeah, very nice. Number 5, visualization.
Absolutely on it every single day, because we as humans naturally think in pictures, and visualization is just thinking on purpose with a purpose.
That's very clean. Number 6, Lord of the Rings.
Off it. More Star Wars guy. More Star Wars and Harry Potter guy, yeah.
I love Harry Potter and the Star Wars. What's your favorite Star Wars movie? I know.
I think I got to go Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Yep. Very good. I just rewatched a lot of them just in the last couple of months. So. Number 7, rainy days for San Diego.
Off it. Absolutely off it. People forget how to drive, and like, why would I want to go out in the rain when the sun is just better?
You telling me those San Jose folks don't know how to drive in the rain?
They're much better than the San Diegans. I tell you
Really?
that. I spent 22 years of my life in San Diego, and people forget how to drive.
Yeah. Number 8, bowling.
Ooh. On it, but I'm not great. It's pretty fun. I like it.
Okay. Number 9, Latino music in the clubhouse.
Absolutely 100% on it. In fact,
Nice.
that was an off-season project of mine, is to learn much more Spanish so I can do my job a little bit better. As people might not know, about over half of the minor league players are from Spanish-speaking countries and speak very limited English. So that my Latin playlist is one of my more frequent go-tos.
That's awesome. Last one. UCSD Tritons winning the Big West this year.
Is there a hopeful option?
We'll give you the hopeful.
There's a hopeful
Absolutely.
option. They did just have a huge win last night against USC.
Yeah.
First time playing in the school, and again, as a brand new-ish Division I program, it's really excited to see like the trajectory of the program and to see where they can go. As I've always wanted the program to be D1, because they're very deserving. I played in Division II, really loved the experience, but I think we belong in the Big West, and I'm really excited to see what Coach Newman does in the future, because I think it's a really great place, and I think there'll be some dudes rolling through there very soon. I'm very confident of that.
He's done a great job over there. I was really fortunate to see him speak at the ABCAs a couple of years back. So yeah, they're definitely on the right track for sure.
No doubt.
Go ahead, bye.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome, Kellen. I love the honor off it. The Latino music in the clubhouse, big time on it. It just gets the vibe going, man. We don't need like the sad country or they're like reggae or Reggaeton, baby. Give me a little Latino
Did,
flow.
did you steal my phone? Those are my
There it
two
is.
go-tos, reggae and reggaeton. Those are my two
man.
favorite types of music. You stole my phone, man.
Hey, we got it on the playlist here. I had to switch to Apple because my Spotify got hacked. So we're rolling. But no, Kellen, we appreciate your time, man. We're sending you the best of blessings on the way down to Arizona this spring. You're going to do amazing things. You already are. And just the impact you're having, the mini mindset moments on Twitter and Instagram are phenomenal. They're awesome. And it's teaching us more than you might think it's teaching us, especially about kids one day. So we thank you for what you do, man. And it plays a massive role in these athletes and coaches' lives. And we're super grateful for you spending some time with us today.
No, I'm grateful for the invitation. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to seeing more of you guys' stuff online and just really continue this conversation and help people understand what mental performance is all about.
We love that, man. We appreciate it, Kellen. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Kellen.
you.
See ya. All right, we're back. First of all, Kellen, thank you so much for sitting down with us. I know your time with your family is limited, especially leading up to a big, month or 6 week excursion you're going to be at right now out there in Phoenix, or Scottsdale. Sorry, G-Man. But thank you for sitting down with us. Thank you for sharing your insights with our people. And I think we got a lot out of it. But for you, Austin, what did you get out of our sit down with Kellen?
Yeah, he keeps it super simple, and that's the part I like about it. I think sometimes when we do have a lot of background and knowledge, we overcomplicate things. He keeps it super simple. He's very approachable, which I believe is a key trait when you're working in this space, especially for athletes at that level who might not always want to be approached, right? And sometimes they don't go straight to you, but he said something important about like, hey, we're just a coach for your mind. Like, we're just another coach out here, but we're a coach for your mind, not your skill or not your arm angle or whatever else. It's for your mentality and for your mindset, and we're here to help. And so the thing I like about what they do is they get in the trenches, they're out there in spring training, they're bouncing around the field, they're having conversations with the coaches and players. And he said he spends a lot of the time helping the coaches because he said, if you have a swing problem, you're probably going to the hitting coach before you go to the mental coach. So I'm going to give the hitting coach some tools and some skills and some things to go in with to help transfer what I'm saying to the player. Right. Kind of using them as a vessel. So I thought that was pretty cool how he uses that and navigates the system there and provides a lot of value to the coaches to help the coaches coach the players who are going to be with those guys all year long, playing throughout the season. What about you?
Yeah, I love that he just sits down and he says, hey, I can't go in and tell a dude, do this without him knowing me and who I am and what I'm about, because those words don't stick. The best time is when you build that relationship like he's doing right now. You're in the trenches, as you'd said. And then when he sees that young man out in San Jose in 7 weeks and he's having a tough time, he can turn to him and go, okay, like, let's chat now. Let's chat about your day. Let's chat about whatever. And then if you want to bring up the swing or bring up the mindset stuff that you're having troubles with, we can get into that. That's no problem because the relationship's already established. And I think that's got to go the same exact way for any coach, any head coach. I know Jay Johnson has always done it, and I'm sure many other coaches do it. That first 2 weeks, we're getting every guy in and we're sitting down for a one-on-one meeting, you and me. Let me know what you're about. First 10 minutes usually has nothing to do with baseball. And then it's, hey, let's line up the goals. Let's see what you're about this year and what do you need from me. And that when that door's open, I think the sky's the limit for a team, and it really does start top down. So Kellen, again, great job, great work. And I know Austin's really itching to get out there and spend some time with you potentially at spring training. So you might be seeing a little bit more of him soon. Anyways, that's going to do it for us today. We hope you guys have a blessed week. Thank you for hanging with us and staying with us. If you are looking to get into some camps, I know we have a lot of camps that are going to be coming up here shortly that we'll be tacking onto the website soon. Make sure you check it out at majorleagueuniversity.com. All socials will be on those sites as well. You'll have access to that. It's going through a little bit of a revamp. Hopefully by the time you hear this, it'll be up and running full time. So that's going to do it for us. Hope you guys have a great week, and see you later.